If you do not start using it now, then you will miss the train when quantum computing is capable of providing the capabilities.
I wanted to have like this quick conversation at the conference, but the time wasn't there at the end, and so I'm very thankful for you joining me afterwards. All right.
Thanks for the invitation.
Zois. Right. Zois, please quickly introduce yourself and tell us and our viewers and listeners what your role is at the European Space Agency.
Okay, so my background is starts from science, from physics. I worked for a long time in telecommunication and software for terrestrial systems, and since roughly a bit more than 2 years, I'm working now for the European Space Agency, and my role is as a future programs officer. So I'm looking into future opportunities where space capabilities and especially space telecommunication can play a role for the benefit of various users and industries and so on.
And our listeners and viewers are very, very interested in space. We have a very strong community of space enthusiasts, and so we basically have every week some new news about satellites and space exploration. And so basically, you were the person I wanted to meet most at the conference, at the QuantumTech conference in London. And then we didn't have the chance to talk, and so I'm really, really happy to have you now in the chat. But how did you like the conference, and what was your biggest takeaway?
I think the conference was very interesting for me. I would appreciate, I think it was very strong and very well positioned, the fact that they did not just bring the companies that provide quantum computing capabilities. The conference was very much focused on the computing aspect. But they had a lot of the user side, so pharma industry or financial sector and banks and so on, transportation, myself coming from the space. So who would be using the quantum technology capabilities? And I think this balance that was introduced was, for me, something very, very positive from the setup of the conference. So as a very interesting takeaway from my side, I would say that the companies that were presenting quantum computing, they had a very clear and good position on that it is something which is not at this stage capable of providing a better solution. So we cannot claim that at this stage with quantum computing we can do something that we cannot do with high performance computing. But they made a very interesting point, and I think it is crucial for every organization. If you do not start using it now, then you will very probably, of course, miss the train when quantum computing is capable of providing you the capabilities. And the same goes for things that have to do with quantum communication or cryptography aspects and so on. So you need to start investigating and understanding and setting your organization up for these capabilities to come with reasonable use cases, even though you do not necessarily have a direct formal benefit, to put it like that. So this sounded to me very much like this learning organization. So you need as an organization to prepare yourself and learn the various topics so that you are capable of reaping these capabilities. I also found very interesting an area where space is, let's say, more directly involved in the short term, I would say. The very strong message that when we're talking about post-quantum cryptography and quantum key distribution, these are not alternatives. These are rather technologies or approaches that should be and can be taken in parallel. So an organization that is looking into advancing its security and cybersecurity systems should take care of both of these paths, follow the transition that is needed, and check in which step which capabilities are supposed to be introduced.
Yeah, you mentioned like we have to prepare for this technology to hit the market and become relevant in like everyday scenarios. Do you have something like a gut feeling for when this is going to happen? Is it more like 5 years, 10 years, or 50 years?
I think this is a question where it is a very commonly asked question. I don't think that anybody, especially I'm not working in this quantum technology, but my impression from discussions and so on, it is not something that we can expect in a very short time frame. So I would rather put the decade rather than the 5 years. But I also do not necessarily think that this is something which we can. I think it is sometimes wrong that we have the perception that we don't have quantum capabilities, and then at one day it suddenly happens. It's not like that. It's rather an evolution that you have, and it's the same in telecommunication networks, where I'm maybe a little bit more familiar. There is a trend towards, in let's say, especially in public speaking, that somebody speaks that this technology suddenly appears and then there is a miracle, but this is mostly not the case. So quantum computing is already providing some results. We are just saying that these results are not results that you cannot achieve with classical computing, but it is progressing. So at one point it will be providing similar results. At one point it will be possible to provide results that you cannot necessarily predict via classical computing. And this was announced that maybe it's optimistic for next year, but let's say in a couple of years, they will be able to create quantum computing systems that you cannot necessarily simulate with our current capabilities in classical computing. And that is a big step, because then you have something where you need to be able to work with that. And that is a continuous improvement. And then you have also different technologies. So companies are approaching quantum computing through different technologies. So trapped ions, neutral atoms, photonics, there are different approaches to that. And we currently don't know which technology will dominate, or if there will be one technology for everything, or we would have different capabilities in different areas. Even if you look at high-performance computing, yes, there was the silicon approach, but there was a very strong approach for high-performance computers using alternative semiconductors, like gallium arsenide computers. So you don't know what is the result. There will be an evolution in systems that are there in parallel, and we will have an interesting time.
Absolutely. I think the most important question for you is, what is the European Space Agency doing with quantum computation, or what do you expect is the most relevant use case to use at ESA?
So the European Space Agency is an organization that works very closely with industry in order to promote the European space capabilities and enable Europe to have a good position in the space industry, so to be competitive and also offer the services to European citizens in this context, to ensure that Europe has a sovereign position in this area. And in this context, there are multiple activities where we see that quantum computing, quantum technologies in general, and also quantum computing in more precisely, can have an impact. So we are proceeding with an initiative along all of ESA's directorates, because it is, I would say, something that touches various points, from planning the missions, which are becoming more complex, to providing capabilities for robotics and natural language processing enhancements, to manage missions where humans will play a lesser role because they are too far, because we need more interaction, to proceeding for predictive maintenance and so on. These are all areas where quantum computing can play a role. And on the other side, we have a very strong interest for quantum computing, which is coming more from the Earth observation aspect, where these are systems that are already deployed and operating, but quantum computing can allow much, or has the potential to allow better processing of the data that we get on one side, and on the other side, of course, and this is one of the especially strong aspects of quantum computing, to provide support for large-scale simulations. And large-scale simulations is the area where we're using the space data to provide, so to go from simple aspects to have weather predictions, climate predictions, but also to proceed into more large-scale simulations to simulate what various natural phenomena could bring. So that, for example, you can simulate what would happen in terms of a flooding, heavy rain, and so on, to be able to do this simulation at a much better scale than we currently do. So it is a multitude of areas, and I don't think that I am the person, or there would be one person who can go into detail in every one of these, but it is a very strong, very wide area of topics that might be of interest.
Absolutely, but the truth is I have no idea. I'm not like an industry insider. I have no idea how this technology is used anywhere. And so it was super interesting to talk, as you said, to people from pharma industry, from security, and also from space. Like not from space,
Even
like
if we
space industry.
touching also, I think that is a good point, and good that you mentioned it. Mentioning the pharma industry, so the pharma industry is looking very much into what you would call quantum chemistry. They are looking very much into molecules that are used in pharma, but the same aspect we have in simulating materials, and materials are a very interesting aspect for space. So quantum computing could be also used for investigating and proposing materials that are used in space industry or in spacecrafts, which we currently do not know about. So you have maybe simpler molecules, and that might even make it simpler from a quantum chemistry computational point of view, but that is another topic.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
we have the aspects that have to do with quantum communication and cryptography aspects, which are of interest, and the aspects that have to do with quantum sensors. And I think it is relevant here to add also the fact that space can offer to quantum technologies something very valuable, and where space is not really using the quantum technology, but offers to quantum technologies an area where tests and experimentation can happen, because space offers the possibility to have very large distances, large gravitational potential differences, time aspects that can be done, and if we're looking at it from a physics point of view, then one, I would say, of the great questions or the great problems in physics has to do with the link or the interaction or combination, however you like to call it, between relativity and quantum mechanics. And an area where this can be measured or experiments can happen, which is very interesting, is the large-scale area in space. So, and this is also an aspect where the European Space Agency would be interested and is proceeding with specific, let's say, scientific projects, or would be interested to support scientific projects which are looking into this direction.
It's really cool. Could you recommend any resources like books or websites or something where our listeners can learn more about quantum computing or stay up to date with the latest developments?
Oh, I would not consider myself necessarily an expert in quantum computing to suggest that. So on a personal level, I would recommend a book by Nielsen on quantum computing, Nielsen and Young, but I think it's fairly standard. And I really enjoyed a book of Aaronson. I think he's in Stanford, if I remember correctly. Maybe I mispronounce his name a little bit, but I think it's Aaronson. Because he has it's called Quantum Computing since Democritus, and he has a very nice way of presenting things and describing them. But I don't consider myself an expert in this area or necessarily very up to date on this. So take this with a pinch of salt.
Of course. Yeah, but I think this is totally fine because the podcast is also not specialized on quantum computation. So I guess that most of our listeners are also no experts. And so every step into this area is already very educating.
So
yeah, Zois,
in terms
thank you so
of checking
yeah.
what ESA has, it is possible to download from the ESA website, ESA's technology strategy. It is a document which includes also some aspects that have to do with quantum computation. And of course, there are regular white papers. So if somebody is looking not so much into understanding, but in keeping in touch, I think white papers from various sources, and ESA, I believe, also has a white paper on quantum technologies, are good sources to get an up-to-date view, and then go into the more reading target to understanding.
Absolutely. I'm going to add all the links into the show notes so everyone who listens can just click on it and find them. Very, very good advice. Thank you, Zois, so much for all of your input. It was super cool, and maybe see you at the next Quantum conference.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.